Hello, welcome to the family card table. Here we are, a little delayed. Sometimes life has a plan and it's not the one that you made. So that's kind of what happened today. And some people really fall on this Mercury retrograde idea that things get slowed down and changed, And I guess Mercury is really communication, right? Is that how you guys understand your Mercury? Right? So then you're in your cards, you have your different cards besides your birth card, and you also have a Mercury card, which is how you communicate. But there's other cards that help you understand yourself as well. But today we're going to touch on the way we're affected by things and how we're more than one card, right? Because even in my trying to explain some of this to my family, I had the language to talk about it in a way that I felt more confident, but I could see as they were hearing it, their brain was just like mush, like what's going on? Like how does this all connect? So in these shows, we're hopefully helping you see how it connects and how you are actually a very complicated person. It's not like there's only 52 life paths. There's 52 life paths with all sorts of nuances in them, right? That make it a lot more life paths. Would you guys agree with the astrology and everything? Yeah. So, um, yeah. So thanks for everyone for being here, and we know that there's more to us than just this show. So I'm gonna put up the website and ask people to check it out. If you're listening, check out this website and see what's going on and learn more, because this is somewhat our promotion for this other idea that we're truly growing. And we want to use this show to be aware of what it is that you all, as the audience or the people curious, would want to know. So if you want to check out the website, it's there on the bottom of the screen. And otherwise, I guess we'll just begin and we'll talk about planetary ruling cards, because that's one of the primary influences to your sun card. Does anybody want to share what they understand the planetary ruling card to be? Or maybe each of us can share that. Because I've also been picking up how when I'm listening to this card stuff, which is coming out everywhere, there's so much more card stuff coming out. It's really fascinating how everyone has a little bit of different angles and frames that they put on things and what they mean and why they're there, similar to astrology. When Rob and I had that show and he talked about it being different languages, but it's still kind of interpreting the information. So I understand it to be your personality card, like kind of like more how you look and act in the world. How would you equate that to the rising and the moon card and the sun card, Rob? Like, I mean, with astrology, how would you have a rising sign, a moon sign, a sun sign. Which one would you say connects to the planetary ruling one?
To be honest, I mean, I don't see there being a direct correlation between the ascendant with, like with the planetary ruling card. I don't. I think that they're different languages, and the way that I look at it is that they're going to be a bit they're in its own system, talking about you as a person, but using different languages and things to do it. So to me, there's not a one-to-one correlation that this is that and this is this. It's more of just a different system of understanding that same energy using different language to do so. So that's my like non-answer for your good question. Um, so
I
yeah,
thought I
that's
was somewhere, but all right. No. How about you, ladies? How do you understand the planetary ruling card?
Go ahead, Donna.
Um, I I see it as, and this is how I explain it to other people, that it's how you appear to others, how you show up in the world. It's additional parts of your personality that you can tap into to use for whatever purposes. Um, I have found in working with clients and that one thing that is experientially true when looking at the planetary ruling card is it really does say a lot about their profession or their calling in life. And I think that makes sense since it is how you show up in the world. A lot of us show up through work. Our identity is through work. When we appear to others, it's through work. And so if I have like a parent client who's asking me about like potential careers for their children, I actually look at the planetary ruling card first. And then I look at the birth card to see if it like, blends well, if it's a good fit.
I like that. I can see that when I'm thinking of people that I know right now. Like I have my stepmom, she's the Jack of Hearts, she's the Virgo Jack of Hearts, but I see her more as the Nine of Clubs because that's her planetary ruling card. She's like her mind, like a forever student in college at 50, you know what I mean? Like still learning, still studying, still wanting to know more. She's got a master's. She speaks multiple languages. She's an attorney. I mean, she plays like 6 instruments. So I see that with that Nine of Clubs energy. I have a question to ask Rob. Would you say that it could be connected to the chart ruler?
Yeah.
Because it's like since we'll use you as an example, you have, since you're Scorpio, the Mars and Pluto, right? And so I don't know what your ascendant is, but could you look at the planetary ruling card as like possibly connected to the person's chart ruler then as well?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you were to choose something in astrology to match that, I mean, to me, the ascendant in astrology, it's how you dawn on people. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of the energy through which, as you actively move through your life, indicated by your ascendant ruler, your chart ruler, that's how you're sort of putting your best foot forward with regards to how to get your act together in life, towards this evolutionary journey in life. And so I guess to me the planetary ruler is not similar to the ascendant, but I could see the chart ruler, which is the ruler of the ascendant. I think there could be an argument to be made there. But again, my perspective is that the card system is quite a bit different than astrology. And I think it's, at least for me, it's okay to not track one exactly to the other, because there are going to be paradoxes and seeming conflicts between the two systems. But I guess I would agree that if you had to choose something, the chart ruler, which is the planet that rules your ascendant, is probably, as good as anything. So.
You're being true to your card there, Rob.
True to my card. The
we'll have to make it by when we're being true to our cards, because that is kind of what truth is, right? It's when you're just like, oh, this is the way I process things.
So yeah. I have a question for Rob then. So in cardology, when you are a Scorpio, like you are, you have 2 planetary ruling cards. So how do you experience that? Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's interesting because for me, just to give, full context for me, is that I use astrology to really get a sense of self. And I oftentimes use cardology as looking at energies through the year and the connectivity with other people. And so when I use the planetary ruling card, it's oftentimes with regards to synastry, that is your interactions with other people, as if those cards are indicators for when you might be interacting with other people. And so in terms of your question of how, in my case, the 9 of diamonds, the 9 of hearts, how I resonate with those cards because, of course, I have two of those ruling cards. I think the nines are very relevant for me in life, where there's this sort of let go, let God element in my life, where it's like, the universe kind of knocks me on the head at times, like, it's not about you, stupid, type of thing, and so, to me, those are big themes, both with the Nine of Hearts in relationships, but also in finances. I have no Earth in my chart except for Chiron, which many Nine of Diamonds will have plenty of Earth in their chart. But for me, that sort of let go, let God is definitely relevant. So those planetary ruling cards are certainly highly relevant. And I would say equally so between the two. But I tend to be drawn more to that Nine of Hearts, which is the Mars rather than the Pluto, but they're both certainly relevant for me.
And it's, you find it, what I like too is, what I like about the cards is you see the patterns. A lot of people have the same number. Mars is the same number Pluto, different suits. You'll find the same thing with Venus, same thing with Mercury and Uranus too at times. So there's different little patterns that I notice. And what I've also noticed too is, like, I think 3 of the 4 5s have 9s in Mars. And so now you start to understand that it's necessary. You have to have that 9, because if you represent change and being able to shift, you can't be attached, right? You can't be anchored to anything. And that's what the 9s are. Your biggest transformation, your biggest motivation is to free yourself from the anchors, because you're a 5. And so these 5s have to have those 9s. And you'll see in readings that they come together, they travel together for that reason, because if something is changing, if something is shifting, you're going to have to go through a process of a death and like a rebirth, because you're going through change and you're a constant energy of change. So I look at these 9s in such a much better way than I used to. It really is to free yourself, right? And the more that you can let go, the more that you can not be attached, I feel like the more freedom, and again, like you said, let go and let God. It's knowing that every time something shifts and every time something changes, it's actually for your betterment. It's to lead you to more where you're supposed to go. Instead of resisting it, you tend to lean into it more. So I think it's so imperative for that 5 energy to kind of really embrace that 9 and not run from it. And I know that's probably nothing to do with what we were talking about, but I don't know why. those 9s in me, I've gotten just so much better at really grasping them and seeing. And you start to see, like, certain cards that have them in Pluto, the 5 of spades, like there's certain, the 5 of clubs has that 9 of spades in Pluto. So you start to see it. They have to have those energies. It's not a bad thing. It's necessary to be who you are, that those 9s are a very intricate part of your life.
Mm-hmm. It's like, how do you play that card?
I totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
I the way I see that, Gina, the way I frame it in my head is that, like, there's very specific lesson that you have as your birth card as that 5 energy for him. But then those 9s are all about, like, the mini lessons that get you to the main lesson.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said there, Gina. It makes a lot of sense for me.
Mm-hmm. And really trust when that, because you're ruled by both of those 9s, which at the highest are wishes fulfilled. So it's just really changing your perception on when things start to move and things start to change. This is actually a wish granted, right? And the sooner you can embrace that, I feel like the more, if it just frees you from sometimes those I like to call it anchors. It's like sometimes it'll anchor you and we get comfortable, and then, yes, I'm sure a lot of times it can be loss. You're going through some kind of transformation, and you can either deem it as a loss or you can deem it as a win. And I think that's when that, like, free, like, how you look at things is really important. You have to change that perception. It's not you personally, but you know what I mean.
No, for sure. It's as if those 9s and also that 12th house in the chart, even Pisces, but It's as if, you know, you come into this world and the universe said, hey, you know, you're here to learn to let go. And don't you worry, I got your back.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you get attached to, I'll take it away for you,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then so lucky you, the universe has your back.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to not be attached. And when you are, the universe will be like, hey, don't worry about it. I got you.
Mm-hmm.
We'll take that right away from you.
Right. It's not yours anyway, damn it.
Yeah. So,
It's not
And
yours to have.
that sounds really like harsh, right? But you know, I think part of the way to move forward with that kind of energy is to not resist. Because I find people that have that 9 energy or experiencing like even as a yearly energy, and they resist the change, they resist letting go, they get knocked around a whole lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the part, Rob, where you brought up how the astrology is the south, you know, meaning, and for some who don't understand, there's like a south node and a north node. Like you come in one way and you're kind of growing to the next version or expression, however you want to term it, right? So to get a basic understanding of what these classrooms most likely would be, right? So here we are telling Rob stuff he knows because he's in his 40s, right? But if you were to learn some of this in your 20s or sometime like that, it might allow letting go and letting God and trusting it more and more. But it's the process, it's the emotional process, because I don't know that people become attached so consciously. I think people just learn to enjoy things. They get comfortable, like Gina brought up comfort, you know? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is cool. This is cool. It's like, and that's not what's going to be here anymore. You know, it's like, and that has to go. And you're like, whoa, okay, darn, you know? And there's a process to that. I mean, I have some similarities to Rob's chart. And I would say one of the life lessons that repeated itself was loving something so much and then having to let it go, like over and over and over in my path. Has it grown me more aware that new stuff always comes in? It's always better. I always grow. Like I've come to see all that. But as a younger person, it was definitely a trick not to feel victim-y by that, because it didn't seem like everybody else had to do that. You know, like whenever you see other people not having the same experience, I think comparison is a really tricky thing for all of us in the ability to accept ours. You know, I think like with the young people I work with, they get real butthurt and weepy about how come she this and how come she that and not me. You know, and it's like, but that's not what's your path. Like that's not yours. Like, why are you trying to be someone else? You know.
And I think, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'll go to my next point after. Go ahead.
I think too, when you're dealing with younger people, social media makes that very much more different because they're seeing what's being posted. But truth be told, you don't know what someone really is experiencing or going through. You're only kind of getting what they may let you in on. And when it comes to those 9s, like to me, and what I've learned, because I have 2 of them right directly, the first 2 of my cards. And so I've had to really look at them differently and appreciate that energy more, because when you really have to let go of something, when you lose something or someone that you would have never thought may or may not been here anymore, there's a level of maturity and growth that comes with that, right? Because it'll bring you down to the pits of the bottom. And then, yes, you get that, like, why me? Why is this happening? What did I do so wrong? It becomes that victim mentality. But when all that, like, energy, so when you really can let that go and you sit in the situation and you realize, maybe it was not the best thing for me, because it's really not like you're losing or you're being punished. And especially going back to like a 5, if they represent change and being able to shift and being able to adapt and being able to pivot and being able to grow, we have to realize that's part of the life cycle, you know, death and rebirth. That's the 9s, you know. It's like the seasons: winter, spring, summer, fall, you know. And so in that process, the plants die, but they come back again. But they, you know, ideally too, the way I've looked at those 9s specifically is, if it's leaving, it's meant to go. And that means to me something even better is coming in its place. And I look at it as like when one chapter closes or finishes, the next chapter is going to come. We choose, am I going to focus on the chapter that finished and ended, or can I be excited for the new one that I haven't even opened up the door to? Right. And I think that's so pivotal with that 9 energy. And it does bring maturity, because the 9s and the kings travel together in the spreads, because I feel like to have that mastery, to wear that crown, you have to kind of experience certain endings and completions, you know, and cycles to kind of get to that, you know, confident part, the mastery part that the king brings with it. And you'll see, and that kind of goes back to like the planetary ruling card. That's why it's so important to me when I do readings, I read from both spreads, because someone will have a 9 in Venus in one spread and the king in the other, and in the other spread, and you can see, okay, you may experience some kind of ending or completion, but this is to mature you, to give you confidence to master something. So you always should read them together, because they're not one without the other.
Yeah, I appreciated that when I did it for the 8 weeks. I for sure appreciated that and could see how those energies played in. I often think of because of the way mine work as the King of Hearts and the King of Diamonds, I come to perceive it like my King of Hearts is my game, my play in the world, but my King of Diamonds is my inner self, right? And since I'm a Cancer, I also have an inner self, right? And I understand that in this depth that I know and live in, there's a call to come up, right? I did a reading with a karmic astrologer. It's just an old friend of mine named Deanna Trust. What a great lady. But anyway, she was doing these 9 elements, and I'm this big water right in the middle. She's like, you come from these deep waters, right? So as the King of Hearts, I'm in my heart. I'm playful. I can keep it light. I don't get attached. I keep moving. I'm a good vibe. But as a King of Diamonds, I feel so focused about what it is I know and what's important to me. So when I try to interact from that interaction of the two, as my like way of sitting at the table say, there's a conflict that grows in me. So I can appreciate that when anybody's working with their planetary ruling card or even the energies of the week, how you deal with those energies is how you're going to deal with having those cards in your spread. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So because the values are so strong, and the King of Hearts can just play. Why not? And not to say there's not family values with the King of Hearts and such, but the Diamonds comes into like a different kind of accountability to values. Like you move more slow, you're more careful. It's not as impulsive, but it can really be, how do those two things move together then? Because, the King of Hearts isn't going to wait long for the King of Diamonds, right? It's going to keep going. Right? Just again, it's energy. It's not really a king, but it's the energy of the playfulness, the moving, the keeping it light, making it a song, or they're like, okay, what do we have to do? It has to be like this, and then it has to be like this, So I sometimes think of it as your inner and outer kind of experience.
So Gina, how do you experience that with your cards? Because just like Scorpios have 2 planetary ruling cards, Leos are different in that their birth card and their planetary ruling card are the same card.
Yeah, so the Scorpio took it. No, I'm just kidding. They had to have 2. No, I'm just kidding. Don't listen to me. It's funny because, Leos are, we're the sun energy. So, and I feel like the Leo cards are the whole kit and caboodle of the card. Like they're the 100% concentrated energy of that card, right?
Like the pedigrees, the pedigree dogs.
Yeah. we're not mixed breed here. No, I'm just kidding. But I can look at, like, when someone brought to my attention, and it's funny though, for me personally, I'm the Jack of Hearts Leo, so I don't even get another energy at all. So I just literally bask in this forever. And then when you look at my placement, it's Venus, Jupiter, and even when I transform, I go to Jupiter, Venus. So I never get any other experiences, right? Energies. So I do find that interesting to kind of look at it like that. And but I will say this, it has really helped me in understanding, like, a lot of the stuff that I've worried about or have allowed to cause me stress, is really my own doing, because if I transform into the Four of Spades, I transform into a card of, being protected, being satisfied, being content. So I'm the nut job causing all the, like stress and worry about the situation, when I can learn to let it go and let it be. I usually realize that even what I've gone through, which can be, painful situations, I've always come out better than I went in, and I think that Four of Spades is a big part of that. But since I don't have another card to even like use as an example or have any kind of other experiences and energies, I really just own up to being the Jack of Hearts. Like it is what it is, like I sit in that very powerfully, and I don't waver in it at all. I know we were talking earlier before I think we came on, or maybe when were on, I don't remember. But for Leos, you can look at the Uranus card, because Uranus is ruled by the Aquarian energy, and that's our opposition. And it's the Six of Hearts for the Jack of Hearts. So I can see that too, because I'm very passionate. I things being fair, things being just, keeping the peace is a big part of me. And I'll sacrifice my own to kind of keep the peace, to keep everybody happy. No matter how I feel about something, I would, stifle it or stuff it down just so that everybody's good. Right. So I can definitely see the Six of Hearts being a co-ruler for me. If I had to look at one, I could easily relate to that card, because I am very much about justice and things being fair. I am a Pisces rising, so my chart ruler would be Neptune, correct, Rob? So even like, again, wanting the love and wanting that everything, but I also can see the delusional in that too at times.
I use the traditional ruler, so with Pisces it would be Jupiter.
It would be Jupiter, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which would make even more sense with the Jupiter placements that I have, or where I sit on the plates. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys look at?
Go ahead.
Do you guys consider what's called the personality cards? So, for example, Gina being the Jack of Heart, your personality card would be the Queen of Heart. And Rob's Five of Heart would be the King of Heart, or the Jack of Heart if he were younger. So do you guys use that much when you look at like yearly energies or things like that?
I do. If I'm doing a reading for someone, like let's say I'm doing a reading for a diamond woman, and she's sitting in the house of the Queen of Diamonds, or the Queen of Diamonds is the long range card, or it's the result card, or it's the transformation card, I will be like, that's your higher personality card. So there's something here that's really asking you to kind of step it up, like to really put on that crown of your suit and really walk in that energy. So yes, I do. I do for my clients. Yes.
And also, I do too. And certainly similar way that Gina just mentioned, but also as a good indicator of another person. In other words, if there's a Queen of Diamonds, a Jack of Diamonds, a King of Diamonds in your spread for the year, it's very likely that those are personifications of those energies and through people and things. So, if it's a Jack of Diamonds, it might be someone younger than you. If it's a King, these energies, of course, show up both in your own life and your own energy and your own persona, but they also can show up through external people and that sort of thing. So that's another way I use it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, I'm thinking of the listeners and how these things become nuances that we can use to understand how it is that we want to use our thoughts and use our energy, right? Because it's the consciousness that we're looking to bring. Because mostly what I've seen in working with people over the years is once the narrative takes hold and people kind of identify with the character that they perceive themselves to be, that grows endlessly until you recognize that you're in a constant state of change and that there's a process to that. And that's why it's interesting we talk about the nines, and this astrology that's happening in August is very much about change. There's a lot of energy saying we're moving it, we're shaking it, get ready. So it's all how you respond. Everything comes down to how you respond to the changes. And if you can let go and trust, right? Because without faith, you're going to try to control, or fear will come in to the freedom of your soul. And then before you know it, you know, you're trying to tell everybody the way it is and you're not really listening. You know, I have a story of being away with my grandchildren, and it was really fun. But one of my sweetest nights was just sitting late at night chatting with Joey. And, you know, he had so many questions about this. And he really kept asking me, like, what does it mean? Like, what do I transform into? Like, what information is it giving me? Like, what is it, Mom? I don't understand. Like, it sounds like it's just like these energies in the sky are creating everything, and we're just like being used in it. I was like, well, it's kind of like that. And so it was really, really hard for him to even wrap himself around. But the part that got to him, he's with the 8 of clubs personality card, it's a 2 of diamonds, was the fact that if anybody can bother you, it's about you. It's not about them. Right? So like when someone else gets under your skin or you get activated by something, that's information for you and how you're processing life, right? So that was a fun part, but it was interesting to see how strong his 8 of clubs wanted to like tell me all about my blind spots and how controlling I am as the king of diamonds. So I was grateful for the classroom and still processing some of the feedback. But overall, you know, just grateful for the safety to say, this is what it feels like to be around you. Because like when Rob says someone comes into your spread for the year or this or that, I find it all the time. Like if I have a certain card in my spread, I get clients of that card. I meet people of that card, right? And how am I going to respond to their energy? Because they're just a mirror of another version of how we move energy through us. Right? So am I going to look to dominate it? Am I going to be curious of it? Am I going to align to it? Am I going to separate from it? Like that's all how I get to respond to the classroom that comes in when a certain card is in your face. I said I have a 9 of diamonds year. This morning I've spoken to 3 9 of diamonds. So, and they're all people that are kind of, I want to talk to you on a regular basis. We got to work on that. Like people got me like, oh my gosh, look at these 9s coming in. Look at this, you know, so pay attention to what they're trying to activate and what's trying to go so you can grow, you know, that kind of thing. So, but it sounds like it's a good time to transition to our card pull. What might it be that would give us 3 cards to look at together around this conversation?
Yeah, and since we're doing the planetary ruling card, how about we pull cards for that too?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Although I don't want to have too many cards to talk about. How about we do a mom, like we could do a single mom and like a child, and we'll do planetary ruling cards.
Perfect. Yeah. Sounds great. So then we'll shuffle out. We'll get 2, and then we'll do the planetary ruling cards as well of those 2. But they do change based on the month, right?
Well, the birthday, yeah.
Yeah.
They
Like
change
what
based
month you're born in. We have different planetary ruling cards. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
exactly.
mean, if there's more questions for this, please put it in because I can see how big a conversation this could be about how these planetary ruling cards work and how they work in our families in the alchemy content. And there's a bunch of information to learn about your specific family and what they've got going on the website. Like you can find out your card, their card, the way things interact with one another. You know, we put a lot of time into giving you guys packages to help process this information. So we may sound like we're all over the place because we've got it and we talk about it in a regular way. But you might find that these packages give you some concepts to kind of track and see how your energy is working with the other energies in your family. So I'll pass it to Donna for the card pull. Good opening. Thanks, everyone.
And just a reminder, I don't know if it'll be helpful, but because I'm not sure if we described it specifically, but exactly what that planetary ruler card is, you know, like the nuts and the bolts of it. And, you know, basically what it is you have a birth card. And, you know, for instance, if someone's a 4 diamonds, there's many days of the year that are 4 diamonds birthdays. And if you're a 4 diamonds, you look at the month that you're born, and that month, well, that date that you're born has a certain sun sign during that month, whether it's Leo, as it was for Gina, or Scorpios for me. And then you look at the planet ruler of that sign, and that planet ruler is associated with a card in your birth spread. And that card is your planetary ruler. So that's kind of the complicated way of describing what it is. There's probably an easier way to describe it, but that's the planetary ruler. So with that,
that's how you get it.
to you, Donna.
Good. That was a great explanation, Rob.
I agree.
Thank you for, the teacher likes clarifications too. So thank you for the clarification on what is important to kind of talk about what that was. So thank you for doing that. Okay, so we're going to do the weekly family card poll. So this is where we look at like a hypothetical family. And so I'm shuffling the cards and inviting the wisdom of the cards to kind of reveal what we need to learn about today. So I'm going to pull, I guess, 4 cards. Okay, so we'll start with the mother's card. And the mother's birth card is a 4 of heart.
Nice.
The mother's planetary ruling card is a 6 of club. And oh, I love this one for the child. A jack of club. And this next one's for you, Gorisha. The planetary ruler card. There's that 9 of diamond.
Yeah. Being
Showed up
haunted.
for you.
That's a good one.
The first thing I'm looking at here is, of course, the birth cards, and that 4 of heart mother card, given that the 4 of heart is the stability and love and relationships card. This is a very nurturing energy, a very a good mothering Cancer kind of energy of a card. This is a person who likes to keep like a real cozy home, a real cozy environment, really is into family, loves family traditions. So holidays are usually a big deal to someone like this. And then this child being the Jack of Club, I always think of the Jack of Club as just being like really mischievous. And this Jack of Club on this card has a little mustache. And so I'm just like, to me, it's just this kind of, a little mystique to it. But the Jacks are just really like free-spirited, particularly as a child, really playful, very intelligent card, very analytical, very creative, real strategic thinker. Children of a Jack of Club, I swear, like this has like been true for every Jack of Club child, boy that I've worked with. They love playing video games. It's like their thing. So I could see maybe there being a little bit of conflict between this 4 of heart and the Jack of Club in terms of, mom's probably really into like we eat dinner at a certain time, and that Jack of Club might be like, I'm still playing my video game. And so a little bit of conflict there. And Jack of Clubs can even if they get grounded because they're doing that kind of behavior, like they can talk their parent out of anything. Like they have such the gift of gab. Like this. So this is a difficult child to raise because they're so smart. Anyway, that's the first thing that I see. What about you guys? What are you reading into this?
So the mom's a 4 of hearts with a 6 of clubs planetary ruling card. So she also has a certain type of like intuition to her, and like a way that she's in a process of knowing her own like mental self. So it's interesting that she has another club card, right? Because as a heart, learning to communicate and use your voice and stuff like that is going to be hard, because she might be more of a willing to accommodate for that sweetness or that idea that she might have, right? Which might allow the more mature mental card to be able to be manipulative to her innocence, right? And then with the 9 of diamonds, like passion with that Jack, that's a life force right there, right? That's like I'm not going down easy. Right. So, I mean, and then that's like when you recognize that it's not because you did something wrong. It's not because they're like grandpa. It's not because they're like their father. It's not because that they're bad. It's because that's what they're here to learn to grow through. And so what is it that they can teach you when you let them grow through it, but also do your work? And don't make some story up about why it's so hard and here we go again kind of drama. But that's what comes up for me. What about you all?
You know, the just thinking about their composite card, the Jack of Clubs and the Four of Hearts. The composite is the Two of Diamonds, and that's a really compatible energy. You know, whenever you have a Two of Diamonds composite energy between the two people, there's going to be something to collaborate on. There's going to be some energetic synergy that can be built upon. And so, yes, it's certainly, I think that combination might really put the Four of Hearts into that situation, the mother into the situation of how to nurture and not coddle, and be able to push the Jack of Clubs into the world and not try to solve all the problems. Yeah, there's really, whenever there's Two of Diamonds composite, it's a really synergistic combination, I'd say.
Yeah, that would be a strength for them, like you said, because they'll have that kind of ability to want to work together. Like their draw to each other will be that way. So there won't be a resistance that's inherent in the combination, which is, yeah, that's going to be helpful for sure.
Yeah. And some kind of shared value system, which is, you know, a great foundation for any relationship, you know, to have like some solid core values that you share with someone. And then it's easier to say when there are disagreements, like, let's just agree to disagree.
Yeah, because the planetary ruling combination card is a Two of Hearts. So isn't that interesting? Just in the card pulls that there's an energy that wants them to come together in the heart, that they accept that they're in it together, which from where I'm sitting, that's the reality. Like when we show up on teams like this in families and we're born to systems of families, we're there for the team. Like it's the same team. Like you're here to do your work to make this the best it can be for everybody. So I'm happy to see that we got those twos as the potential, because that's what's going to help us get to the third energy where you can join and then you can grow something else. You know, you're not resisting at least the first layer of connection. What about you, Jen?
Yeah.
I think that it's an interesting pull, because I think the Jack of Clubs can bring a little bit more fun to that home, you know, because the Four of Hearts can be rigid and stuck in their ways, and there can be elements of control, and the Jack of Clubs is like, screw your control, we're gonna go play and have fun. So I think that element, you know, and then like you said, the Six of Clubs, there's being able to communicate in a way that is, you know, more copacetic, like being open. And sometimes with the Four of Hearts and that Six of Clubs, like being open to other ideas, because the Jack of Clubs is going to come with a ton of them, and really kind of get you to think outside the box, get you to look beyond your four walls that you may put yourself into, like really kind of break free, because that is what that Jack of Clubs to me is, like freeing your mind, thinking outside the box, really coming from a much more higher way of communicating, thinking into the future, where the Four of Hearts may just be like, no, just, you know, right, you know, sticking to the plan, where the Jack of Clubs is like, you know, throw your plan away and wing it and see what happens, you know, explore, have more fun. So, you know, and then the Six of Clubs, I think that Four of Hearts, that Six of Clubs combination can be more where the Jack of Clubs would get impatient with that energy too, though, because sometimes they may take their time and really sit with things and not be quick to move. And the Jack of Clubs is like, I'm 5 steps ahead of you, you know, so there may be some friction in that. I could see that. But other than that, I think the Jack of Clubs would bring a lot of fun to the Four of Hearts life.
And they're pretty loyal. I mean, the Jack of Clubs that I have in my life, like when they love you, they love you. You know, they're sincere that way. Like they can be those things, but I don't know. But both my parents are Jack of Clubs. I did not live without knowing they loved me. They had a lot of thoughts about who I should be and this and that, but they loved me. They were on my team.
I'd say that both energies too can carry their weight in a debate. Like both, obviously the Jack of Clubs, but the Four of Hearts too. I mean, with the Eight of Hearts, Mars, and it's there's could be some real fireworks when it comes to
for real
debating the rules.
Yeah. And I guess that's the thing, being able to have those conversations without personalizing it. So like, say if the Four of Hearts is caught up in like needing it to be a certain way, they're not going to be able to play and move with the kind of freedom that the Jack is craving, right?
Yeah, and that Six of Heart for the mom, like, tends to be a little more easygoing and not reactionary. And that probably is good for that child with that Jack of Club and the Nine of Diamond energy. Because Jack of Clubs, man, they're mischievous. I mean, they know how to like press. They're so smart. Like, they know people's weaknesses and they know what buttons to press. And so I think it's important for a parent in that kind of a situation to not react to it. Because then that child could take advantage of it. So I see that as kind of like a good kind of dynamic between these two individuals as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel a call to letting people know, as they're still listening, that if you want to take in your cards in your family, we're open to bringing you up and having those conversations, or having you look over the free stuff and get a little sense of the basics, because I'm hearing us do this, and it's like we have we're made up a whole world. Like, we're seeing who they are, how they work, and because we know the energies, and I guess the more I can impress upon that, yes, we're unique individuals that have soul paths and things that are likely to unfold in the time that we're here, but we're also responding constantly to the energies around us and how we want to connect or don't want to connect. And that has a lot to do with your personality, and some of that you create by the way you decide what's comfortable, what you like and don't like, right? So it really depends on your level of openness. Right? Wonderful. Yeah. And there is definitely patterns I've seen too, where each family gets that person who's going to help rock the boat. They might call it the black sheep in some days, but they're also the activator.
It's funny we're talking about this. I made a post earlier today, and she was breaking down, like, it's kind of appropriate for talking about families and kids, but she basically says the children were brought here to teach their parents something. And so she says, so say if you're a Virgo, you were here to teach your parents how to be more perfectionist and how to complete things. Aries was to teach their parents how to stand up, have a spine, don't let nobody push over on you. Taurus was about possession. You ain't got to be broke. You really don't. You got intelligence. Come on, mom. So Rob, would you say that, you can look at your kids and their sun, I guess, based on their sun sign, there may be some lessons that your child was here to bring forth to you based on that sun sign. She said Aquarius, and then she turned around like, why am I here? But it was really interesting because I look at, I have a Virgo and a Capricorn, and what she kind of broke down, I was like, oh yeah, I could easily see that, and so I just thought that was really interesting because we were talking about the families and the dynamics of that. And so astrologically, you can look at, your child or children and their sun sign, and you may not even have any of that in your chart. And so maybe they were here to kind of bring forth that energy. That's maybe what you're missing.
That's right. Yeah, for sure. Particularly where they show up in your natal chart and which house, and it sort of brings energy wherever that sign is. And I think likewise with the cardology spread, where they show up in the spread related to you, and the interactions speak to a lot of this as well. I mean, we've been talking a lot about individual energies, but of course, they also fall in a certain location, and the spread and the distance between them can certainly speak to some more of these challenges that they represent energetically for each person. And yeah, so this is, to me, these types of elements of cardology and astrology are so powerful for self-awareness, self-inquiry, and what Groisha was talking about earlier, how people push our buttons. It's our buttons that are being pushed or seemingly pushed from the exterior, but of course, it's simply reflecting areas where we're triggering ourselves and we're using someone else to do it. And sometimes these are less obvious, but it's sort of an invitation to really look within and to see, all right, what's happening here, and how can I come to inner peace? Because of course, the world is going to be the world. It's our choice as to whether or not we want to unhook our triggers from the outer world. Obviously, that can be challenging, but it certainly is the path to.
Yeah, and there's no way around it. It's definitely for the courageous, right? Because when we call this self-awareness portal, and we talk about looking at yourself, like, it's much easier and more fun, and you get a whole bunch more adrenaline talking about other people, right? It's so much more fun pointing out, oh, they should this should that. Like, everybody can tell everybody what they should do from a chair, right? But when you're in it, it's very different. And so it's easy for your thoughts to derail you. So therefore, you're looking, I think there's a real value to who you do surround yourself with, because if you are in a space where there's a certain amount of negativity that certain comes through, that's what you want to unhook from, right? Because you're taking on that negativity and making it part of you when it may not even be hosted in you. You just feel responsible. Like what Gina brought up, I live with the 6 of Hearts as my Mercury. Everybody at peace. Well, golly, that's the best day that I could have, right? When everyone's at peace. But if I'm not at peace, I'm not even enjoying it, right? I have to be present and at peace myself. Otherwise, I'm sweating from all I did for everyone else to be at peace. Phew. The heck is that, right? Like that. But it is the tendency for some to be more accommodating. And then the ones that are the peacemakers oftentimes are pushing the ones that won't move, right? Like if I'm truthful, I probably spent more time trying to push along people who didn't want to go instead of enjoying the people that were right there dancing, right? And that's in my chart. That's my name. That's what I do. Oh my God, somebody's sick. Let me help them. Oh, let me make them better. It has to be an ego distortion. Why would I be that? The only reason I could be that is because I decided that's what made me feel good or made me feel like I was matching the value of peace. But it's not my responsibility to make peace in another. It's my responsibility to bring peace into the space for myself. Right, to stay neutral, to stay curious. But then there's ways that sometimes people, the patterns I've seen in families is we're so hypersensitive to each other. We're so hypersensitive to the verbiage or the tone of somebody that we're close to that we don't necessarily listen for their experience. We listen from our potential of being, shot down by what they say. Oh, you can't say that to me. It's my kid. You're my kid. You have to this. No child of mine is going to do that. Where does that come from? Like, this child of yours is a mystery that's unfolding in front of you. You have no idea what it is yet. That's the way I like to look at parenting. Like, they're showing you, like, being a parent to older children now, it's fascinating to see what's coming through them and what their classroom might be. And all I can do is stay kind and neutral and not think that I can tell them the answers, because I don't know their answers. I know what I did to make peace. They have to make peace however they work with the universe and the energies, right? Very nice. So those are the patterns I notice, is that whatever you need, it shows up in the person closest to you. And it's for you for sure. Definitely for you. So we are, you're okay, Gina? Oh.
Yeah, my oldest one was talking to me. I had to
Okay.
mute the mic. So I'm talking to her, but talking to you guys too.
Okay. It's very good. Well, then what else would we want to bring in for today? Like, we're open to people giving us topics. We're also making a list of topics ourselves based on what we think would be helpful. We really want to stay focused on these parenting and this relationship interactions because in our experience, as you hear in our language, it's about the alchemy. And that's the way the different energies work together. And I wonder if we don't want to sometime do a show about how the bigger picture of all this looks too, because there's something happening in a much larger way that we're part of as well. And this idea that there's a wholeness that wants to be experienced and coming back together in a sense of wholeness. And any part of you that gets fragmented or projected or isn't necessarily one that you want to embrace, that's going to be in your classroom. Because right now the call is put it all back together and join in a way that you're part of whatever you're part of fully. And you're not half in, half out, being a bully or got stuff in your head. So it seems that's what the August is shaking up in where I'm looking. So how about you? Go ahead.
I'd like to mention that next week we're going to be starting a series on the show that we're calling Back to School Series. Since it's that time of the year to get our young ones back to school, or in the case of Gina, like college bound. There's lots of prep work, a lot of like maybe even emotions, transitions. There's a lot of change. Getting kids like back to a normal like sleep pattern. I know with my freedom-loving 5 of heart, when he was younger, like he just loved staying up really late at night. In the summertime, he would like get on this awful kind of schedule, and then I had to transition him back to like be able to get up in the morning. Don't know if you did that to your parents, Rob, but my 5 of heart did that to me.
Never had that problem. Yeah,
for sure. So next week we're going to be digging into children and parents experiencing that whole back to school phenomena. And we're going to have a teacher guest as part of our first week.
Nice. That sounds fun. And I think it's another way of looking at somebody. It's like beyond your curriculum and your class and how it's decorated. It's like, who's coming to dinner? Like, who's coming to learn? Like, who's coming into my classroom? And obviously, like I've said, those cards that are coming, they're in your spread too. Like it's happening for you. Children are teachers at all ages and stages, however you get a chance to be around them. They're still vibing mostly in an innocent place and just absorbing whatever's around them. So when they start to talk and tell you what they're experiencing, you can get some real clear information.
Yeah. And it's a new beginning. The new school year is such a, stage of like a newness where you're making first impressions with new friends or new teachers or, so it's an opportunity, lots of opportunities there.
Nice. Wonderful. Well, then
yeah,
we'll
I like,
you.
Sorry. No, it's because my daughter knows that I do the cards. She'll come home and start talking about, someone from the class. I'm like, we'll find out their birthday. Then I can help you with what, what you do. Even with the teacher, when's her birthday? It helps me to kind of help her, be able to relate to the energy, and, I agree with you, Donna, getting these kids back to a schedule and back to waking up. But I think even for myself, I've kind of enjoyed not having to wake up by the alarm and, the hustle and bustle of like, get up, we gotta go, in the morning, and getting my own self back to going to bed at a decent time is going to be a challenge for myself. But I think that's important when you understand your child and their card and, helping them adjust to that energy as well. And it's interesting with her, my little one being a semi-fixed card. She's either the Ace of Clubs with 2 of Hearts, so some days she's like, I want to hang with them. Another day she's like, I don't even want to go, like I don't want to talk to nobody. So she bounces back and forth. And it's interesting because we'll get the birthdays and you can see who hangs out with each other, who doesn't, who likes each other, who doesn't, because my youngest will be going into 5th grade, so it's real, niche, if you will, and the cliques, if you will, and and with the girls, oh my God, the bickering and the one day they're your best friend, the next day they're not, and so it's a lot of that happens with them. So I think that's like a little cheat sheet with the cards. It's like you can get their birthday, and she had an issue with one of the girls last year, and she's a 10 of diamonds. I was like, oh, she just wants the attention. If you don't want to deal with, just don't give her the attention. Just walk away from her. So it's interesting to kind of see the little cards come out. And then I volunteer for like the field trips, and I know their cards. So
nice.
It's funnier. Yeah, I like going on the field trips.
And then it changes when they're young men, adults, and they're like out at night at a bar, and you get that text message like, "Mom, can you look up this birthday for me and tell me about this card?"
Mm-hmm.
These systems certainly make you OCD about people's birthdays. And
yes. Yes.
And for me, the birth time, if you have the birth time, oh yeah,
right.
That's
Go ask your teacher when she was born.
Yeah, that's a little more awkward, asking the time of birth.
Back to school night, I've been looking for some information about you.
Right.
But
can I get your time of birth, please?
But in a way, it's saying I care enough to know what's really going on, right? I mean, I didn't know anything about the cards, but for sure, I did all those things, went on the trips and looked at the personalities and how people worked. I had no idea it was a card thing I was picking up, but I for sure noticed how certain people were and what you might want to do to help them understand that you were there, but not necessarily, to work for them, but to be part of it, And yeah, that's really true. Well, that'll be fun. I look forward to back to school stories. Perfect time for it. And we'll promote it as big and as loud as we can. If you know any teachers or friends that are kids going back to school, our teachers themselves, come check it out. Check out the card table, see what you learned here.
So JLo says she has all her family with their card in their phone book. I got people in my phone with their name and their card next to their name. So
I do too. Everybody comes up as a card now. Everybody comes up as a card. That's how I knew that all these 9 of diamonds call me. I was like, that's crazy. I had 3 9 of diamonds call me today. It's like, that's crazy. Yeah, it definitely becomes like, and it's interesting because it takes away from the idea of like, oh, what do they expect from me, or what's going to happen, or what is it? It's more like, oh, this is coming in, and this is a space that I usually like. One of my best friends is a 9 of diamonds, and like we get so clear when we're talking. We break stuff down in ways that like she is like a refreshment to my soul when we go into our deep spaces, right? And we go in and out, and we're going to start a weekly chat again because there's some things coming up in my awareness that have been repeated, but she's been tracking with me 35 years. So she's like a huge gift. You know what I mean? And the other wants to hear about this. He goes, I want to know about these cards and how you tell families, like, let's talk about this more. So others are coming in with that interest and how this goes viral and will grow. So it's all for my good. It's all for my wellness. It definitely happens like that. So look for what's coming in, eh? And keep it on the table. No under the table. Don't get sneaky. Don't try to manipulate by what you know, because that's not necessarily going to make the game a good way to play, because then it's going to get teeth in there. What are you laughing at, Rob?
No, I love your over the table, under the table card playing. It's a great metaphor. And yeah, cards on the table. Yep. Any yeah, that's probably a good rule.
Yeah, might as well, because otherwise what's really going on, you don't even know, right? And you're getting a sense that everything's on the table, but they're not talking about it, but they're talking about everything else and keeping you really busy. You ever notice when somebody doesn't want you to know something, how much they have to say about everything else? So, very true. Well, thank you everybody for making the time today. And is there anything else anyone wants to bring in before we let go?
Did Rob want to go talk about any of the astrological stuff that might be playing out right now, real quick? I know we usually do a little bit of that on here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I guess just briefly, we're in a Mercury retrograde, and we were talking about that a little bit earlier in the show, and I know we're kind of low on time, but that's certainly a big one with Mercury going in retrograde, and it brings opportunities to slow down and take it easy and reorganize. It's like Mercury retrograde in Virgo. Reorganizing the file cabinets, sort of thing. And we're about to enter, before too long, Pluto retrograde at 29 degrees Capricorn. And that'll be an interesting one. We can talk about that next time. But that's during the whole election cycle, and it's an interesting time energetically. So I'm sure we can talk about all that next time.
And would you say with it being it's really fascinating too, Mercury went retrograde at the beginning of this week, correct?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it's a 6 of diamonds week, and sixes kind of do bring things back to be kind of reviewed and balanced. So we talk about it all the time, how, it all is lining up, whether you're looking at it through the astrological lens, the cardology lens, how it all kind of lines up in that. So yeah, with Mercury going retrograde being a 6 of diamonds week, and it is kind of slowing things. That's what the sixes do. They slow you down. You got to kind of trust in the timing of things. We had technical difficulties at the beginning. And again, it just makes you kind of just go back over something. Maybe I missed the wrong button or whatever the case may be. So I just think it's fascinating that all kind of kicked off, and the new moon kicked off too, with this being a 6 of diamonds week too. So
there's always synergy between the transits and the cardology. It's unbelievable.
It really is. I love it.
Amazing.
It gets me all giddy. I think it's so cool. I do. I think it's just so neat to be able to be like, look at that, how that works out. I think it's just so cool.
It really is wild.
Yeah. There's a lot of magic in it for sure.
Yeah.
Working itself out. Yeah, I appreciate that too. It's definitely nice to see it. I guess I always wonder what we do with it, and I think that's where we're learning how to use it, because just knowing it is one thing, but how you use the energy is the next layer, right?
Yeah, I always say with like the sixes, it's interesting because a lot of the readings that I did this week, everybody had just so fascinating how it kind of even works out. Like it just seemed like a lot of people had 6 energy strong in their spreads. So it's just, we're all really experiencing this collectively and even individually too, that it's, and it kind of lines up for everybody's spread on a weekly basis that, and I always say, pay attention with the sixes. What is showing up, what is leaving? And if you don't like it, that's your time to kind of adjust it, because it's just, you're getting back what you've put out. So, it's a good time to kind of really go within, kind of sit with things and be like, oh, okay, it's just a reflection of what I'm feeling or what I believe. And if it's not lining up to what I want, then instead of changing the outside, I got to go within. And I think that's a big part of the retrograde, is to kind of, essentially it's looked at going backwards, even though it's not really moving backwards, but it is about really going within and being able to kind of make those adjustments, revisit certain things and review. And it's an opportunity to, fix it, if you will, if you're not, happy with what's coming. And I'm like, always pay attention. Like, it doesn't always mean you're going to be paying out debts. You could be receiving them as well. You know what I mean? So it's a good kind of way to kind of reflect on where you are when I see the 6 energy.
Well, I think the cards, go ahead, Donna.
Oh, I was just going to say, I totally agree. I see that 6 as being balanced. So it's a time to look inward and say, what is not in balance?
Yep.
And then that is the part of your life that you do need to take the time. That's why, things slow down, because you do need to put new attention on that to rebalance things in life.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's like a collective rite of passage, right? That's what it seems like is what's happening. And that rite of passage is that it's not about popularity or someone else being your confidence. It's about balance, right? Everything blooms when it's in balance. So our becoming more balanced individually and then wholly is going to help things grow differently and maybe bloom differently. And one of the phrases that got stuck in my head a long time ago, I think was for this game too. It was like for right relation and co-creation, we're building a new foundation. And the right relation is your balanced whole self. And then the co-creation is what you use the things around you to grow things. And the foundation is what's coming, that we're going to grow differently because we're not a split. We're more connected and working together. So we'll see if that's possible. Those are my cards on the table. Wonderful, everybody. Well, thank you. Thanks for doing your work for balance.
Yep.
Anyone else before we say goodnight?
No.
Well, all the best to your girl there. May college be awesome.
Yes, she's excited. She's
Well,
very
thanks.
excited.
Thanks for working together so well. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm excited too. I'm very excited for her. Get her
Awesome.
situated all tomorrow, got all of her stuff together. So she's looking forward to it. But see you guys next week.
Yeah.
Bye.
Good to see you all. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you
Yeah.
next time.